when he spoke about Islam, I said, well, this is very much exactly what I believe. But then there was this one problem. It was Islam. This aggressive and dangerous religion. This cannot be the truth. And then he gave me a book, and when I started reading it, my God, my heart was like this. I said to myself, please God, please, don't let this be the truth. Anything but not Islam. Please, select something else but not Islam. Why this has to be the truth? It was like a 10-month war inside myself. And it was on this night I said, Marcel, there's no way to escape that. And then I remember my first prayer. And this was the most beautiful experience in my whole life.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Marcel Kras. Thank you for accepting our invitation. We are very happy to have you with us at Towards Eternity. I want to start with, who is Marcel Kras? Can you tell us briefly about your life?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And first of all, thanks for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. I'm from Germany. I'm 48 years old. I was born and raised a Christian. I converted to Islam at the age of 18. I married soon afterwards, so now I have 3 boys. I studied electrical engineering, and now for quite some time, since 2007 you can say, I'm active in preaching Islam in Germany.
How was your life in regards to faith? What were you believing in before Islam?
I was raised as a Christian, and I used to go to church up until the age of 8 every Sunday. My father actually doesn't believe in anything at all. My mother was Catholic, and she believed in that. It wasn't the case that they used to go to church that strictly in the later ages. And I believed in one God, and I believed in the stories of the prophets. These stories weren't just fairy tales for me, but I couldn't understand the concept of Trinity. There's one God, and the Son of the God, and the Holy Ghost. So I never believed in that at all. I used to pray a lot, as we say in Islam. I used to make dua. That means I pray to him when I had problems, when I faced difficulties in school, in my private life. Even later on when I was a teenager and I wanted to get a girlfriend, I used to pray to him. Now it sounds strange, but yeah.
What was the thing that made you question your beliefs?
Number one, it was the matter of the Trinity that I couldn't come up with. I thought this is definitely wrong. First of all, because it was too complicated. There's one God and that's it. There's nothing more to it. And I was convinced about that from my early childhood. And in addition to that, there was not a clear concept of life after death. This is something I was interested in, but and I tried to get some answers from people because I said, what will happen after death? I was so curious about that. But in Christianity, there wasn't really a clear-cut answer. You're a Christian and you believe that Jesus died for your sins and then everything will be okay. Fine, but what happens after death? Let's say I'm dying now and I'm put to my grave. Then what? Tell me about this. And I said to myself, a religion must have an answer to this question. It's impossible. Because this is the main question at all. What is the purpose of life and where are we going? Why we are here? I didn't find a real answer from the Christian side. So I said, okay, there's something missing.
How did you first hear about Islam? Did you have any prejudices?
I had a lot of prejudices about Islam.
You had Muslim friends?
I didn't have any up until the age of 16 or 17, you can say. I had a friend from Pakistan in school, and he was actually the one who introduced me to Islam. The only thing I knew about Islam is that, number one, Muslims don't eat pork. This is like one of the main pillars of Islam. And number two, if you get in trouble with one of them, this one does have 40 cousins who will go after you. That's all I knew about Islam. And of course, I picked up some bits and pieces from the media. Unfortunately, what you hear about Islam in the media is always the same story. You don't hear anything about Islam at all, Islam itself, but something about Islamic countries. And when you hear something about them, it's usually about war, about a terrorist attack or something like that. I thought that Islam is an aggressive religion. It's backwards, dangerous maybe even. Yeah, that was my picture about Islam before I converted.
How did your journey to Islam begin? What impressed you the most about Islam?
I met this one Pakistani friend in school. he started talking to me about Islam. At the beginning, he didn't mention Islam at all. He talked about one God, and you believe in one God, and you are sure that it's only one God and not the Trinity or something else. And of course, I told him, yes, I believe in that. And then he told me, what do you think about Islam? That was the question he asked. I said, why Islam? And when he started talking about Islam, I recognized very soon that this is exactly what I believed. He told me about one God, and he described to me this one God, that he is almighty, all-powerful. When he spoke about Islam, I said, wow, this is very much exactly what I believe. But then there was this one problem. It was Islam, this aggressive and dangerous religion. This cannot be the truth. And even, it's like I said to myself, please God, please, don't let this be the truth. Anything but not Islam. Please select something else but not Islam. Why this has to be the truth? Yeah. Because I said, no. How can I follow this religion? I knew about the picture of Islam in the West. And I said to myself, if I go to my parents, my friends, if I tell anyone I'm Muslim, impossible. So that's why I was convinced of Islam easily. But I hesitated because of the bad image of Islam. Partially because of the media, and partially because of the behavior of the Muslims, I have to say.
Did you also find answers to your questions about the afterlife?
I asked my friend about life after death, because as I said, a religion must have a clear answer. And he said, yes, we do have an answer for that. I can give you a complete story about what happens from the moment you go to the grave up until paradise and hell. I said, oh my God, let me read it. And then he gave me a book which describes the journey of the hereafter. And when I started reading it, oh my God, my heart was like this. I couldn't stop reading. I just read, and whatever I read was beyond my imagination. Do you know these Hollywood stories when then there's an asteroid hitting the Earth or something like that? This has nothing to do with it. It was the destruction of the complete universe and the resurrection of all human beings, and they are gathered in front of their God, and then they are judged, and the description of hell and the description of paradise, and I said, my God. And then I knew, okay, this is not a joke. You have to take a serious decision. And I said to myself, Marcel, you have to take care that you do not leave this world without having accepted Islam.
So you immediately understood that Islam is the right religion, Islam is the truth itself. You were already convinced in your heart?
I was convinced in my heart, yes.
And when you saw the seriousness of this, without dying without faith?
Yeah, that was the point where I took the decision to become Muslim, but still I hesitated. And still because of the image of Islam, it made it so hard.
But you were fearful about the consequences, right?
I was more afraid about the consequences of not accepting Islam. I said to myself, okay, whatever happens now, it will happen. But at the same time, I also believed if I take this step, and it is the truth, and I want to start worshipping this one God as He wants to be worshipped, He will not leave me alone. He will not let me down. That doesn't mean that there won't be any obstacles or difficulties in life, but He won't let me down. And I can tell you, He didn't let me down.
So how long did it take for you to just be introduced to Islam and then to be convinced?
The whole journey was about 10 months, you can say.
And what made you take that step of becoming Muslim?
When I was driving the car at night, it was quite some trouble. I mean, half an hour I was in the car, it was dark outside, and I was thinking about anything and everything. And then my mind all of a sudden focused on Islam and on the seriousness of this issue. And in this night I still remember that there was a change in my heart. It's as if I was sitting next to myself, speaking to me. Not that I heard voices, but it was the picture in my mind, you can say. I said, what are you doing? Aren't you taking this seriously? And it was in this night I said, Marcel, there's no way to escape that. It is the truth. It's not something you can play with. You can take a wrong decision regarding your job, even your marriage, regarding many things in life, but here we are talking about eternity. And this is something I couldn't wrap my mind around, eternity. That was really the night when I thought about it deeply, and immediately afterwards I went to my Pakistani friend and I said, look, that's it. I don't want to resist anymore. I gave up resistance.
And then what happened? How did you take your Shahada? And how did you feel when you take it?
A couple of days later, we went together to the mosque for the Friday prayer. And then he spoke to the Imam and he said, look, there's someone who wants to take the Shahada. And then we did it after the Friday prayer in front of 200 people maybe. It was a strange experience, but it was very beautiful. I took my Shahada, and what I didn't expect, that each and every person came to me and hugged me and said, welcome to Islam, brother. It was really a beautiful experience.
As towards eternity, we need your support. We are a charity organization that aims to spread the message of Islam to the entire world in 10 languages. With your support, you can help people convert to Islam, give up harams, start praying, wear hijab, learn to read the Quran, and so on. And get your share from all these good deeds, inshallah. Donate to Towards Eternity and don't miss this golden opportunity. And how are your feelings when you were taking the Shahada? What did you feel in your heart? What was crossing your mind?
At this moment, it was a kind of warmth in my heart. Really a warm feeling. This feeling of brotherhood. Especially because so many people came to me. This was the moment when I took my Shahada. And then I remember my first prayer. And this was the most beautiful experience in my whole life. The first time when I prostrated in front of God. And then I prostrated and I swear to God, I didn't want to get up. So I won't forget this moment at all in my whole life. This is the kind of happiness that you can buy in the streets for $50. This white powder that you sneeze in your nose. It's a chemical reaction. And once I took the Shahada and I entered Islam, this search for happiness was over. And this is the biggest difference between myself before Islam and after Islam. It doesn't mean that you don't face obstacles or difficulties in life, but it means you still feel something inside your heart. You said, okay, I can handle it.
And there are some Christians that say, I find spirituality and feel connection with God when I pray. I don't need any other new thing. What would you like to say to that person or those people?
I wouldn't deny that you cannot find emotions in other religions, but there are two things. Number one, emotions you can get from anything. You sometimes see people watching a football game. You see the World Championships. Just imagine Spanish people watching their team winning the championships. They have emotions. But this has nothing to do with God or with anything. So emotions do not mean in and of themselves, do not mean too much. And number two, main thing regarding religion is that it must be the truth. Whatever it gives you as a feeling. Even if you are happier with another religion, I cannot judge that, but is it the truth or not? You can, the truth doesn't follow your wishes. God gave us a mind to think about something, and you don't have an excuse if you believe something that contradicts your mind, obviously, that no one would accept. But still you say, okay, I believed it because I was born that way, or because my parents believed that. We cannot expect God to accept this as an excuse.
Many people describe their Shahada moments like a huge burden was taken from my shoulders, a huge lift was taken from my heart. Was that the same for you?
Exactly like this. And now I'm telling this to others. When I see someone who hesitates, I'm always telling him, look, I know what you feel. Now, taking the Shahada looks like a mountain over your head. But I guarantee you, once you take the Shahada, you feel no mountain anymore. You feel like a burden is relieved from your shoulders. Maybe this is one of the reasons why people hesitate. You just see a mountain over your head, but it isn't. But you have to take this step. It's as if God is asking you, just do it. It might look difficult at the beginning, but you have to take the first step. You have to come to me one step and I will come 10 steps towards you, but you have to take the first step. I'm not forcing you, it's your decision, but take it and then you will see what happens. When I took the Shahada, it was after 10 months of resistance. There was an internal conflict, an internal struggle, knowing that it's the truth, but sometimes trying to find excuses not to accept it. For 10 months. It was like a 10-month war inside myself, and all of a sudden the war was over. And it's like any other war, you're just happy it's over. But here, not in the way that you are defeated, you come out of this with a victory. And that's what I felt in my heart. It was the right decision. Just I asked myself, why didn't it take it so long? Why?
How was your family's reaction, your friends' reaction?
Oh, don't ask.
I have to.
Don't ask. First of all, I have to say I made made a big mistake with regards to my family. I told you 10 months I was like convinced in my heart, but I just didn't dare to take the first step. During these 10 months, I have not talked to my parents about Islam even once, not 1 second. They didn't know that I'm reading books about this or having discussions with my friend. Nothing. Then I converted to Islam, and at the beginning I didn't want to tell my parents because I knew this was be a big story, especially because they didn't know anything about it. But you see, the problem was when I converted, it was in the beginning of 1995, January 1995, I think the first Friday that year. And if you check your calendar, Ramadan in 1995 started end of January, I think January 26. This means, you can say, 3 weeks later. And of course I wanted to fast, but I'm still living at home. How can I explain to my mother that for 30 days I'm not having lunch with you?
And drinking any water.
Yes, so I knew within the next 3 weeks I have to talk to my parents. Otherwise I would have hesitated at least another 6 months. So there was no time to prepare them, and there was no way to escape. So 4 days before Ramadan, I prayed in my room and I went downstairs. It was around 8 o'clock in the evening, my parents sitting in the living room watching TV. I was standing in front of the door. I said, "Ya Allah, oh God, make it easy." So I opened the door and I said to my parents, "Mom, Dad, I have news for you." And you know, as I look at you, I said, what news? Then I just told them straight away, I have become Muslim. And then I remember my father's reaction. The first sentence he said was, "Muslims, they are all terrorists." It was the first reaction. And this was 1995, even before 9/11. 1995. Muslims, they're all terrorists. That was the first sentence. My mother, she became hysterical. I mean, as if she really lost her mind at that evening. Because she was too afraid. She was too afraid. My uncle, her brother, years later, he told me my mother called him that night. Just, she wanted to talk to her brother. And he told me it was late evening, maybe 10 or 11 o'clock. So he picked up the phone and he just heard my mother's voice. "They have taken our Masal. They have taken our Masal." That was the first thing. That was the only thing he heard. My mother's voice. "They have taken our Masal. They have taken our Masal." I said, Who took what happened? I'm sure she didn't know what she said that evening. But as I said, it was a big mistake on my behalf that I have never talked to them about Islam at all during the whole 10 months.
What about in the positive sense? Did any German person came to you and said, "I didn't know that Islam is this way," or my thoughts are now changed? Did you have such conversations?
Of course, they asked the usual questions. A lot of them in school. "You can marry now." You converted because you can marry 4 women. I understand now you can have 4 wives. This was number 1. Number 2, they ask about jihad all the time. Holy war. Some people ask, are you going to kill now all unbelievers? Are you going to cut our tongues or something like that? You see these images. A Muslim is only a guy with a sword in his hand. Yeah. But these were the type of questions.
And when you looked at his life and you learned about him, what impressed you the most about Prophet Muhammad?
What I admired most about the Prophet Muhammad is his mercy. When I read about all these stories, how they treated him, then they fought a war against him, several battles, and then he comes back to Mecca and he enters Mecca victoriously. And I compared this with all these other examples from history. Someone was treated in that way and he comes back and turns out to be victorious. How does he treat these people? And he just enters Mecca and people are gathering around him. He asked them, "What do you think what I'm doing with you right now?" And they tell him, "Look, we know you. We expect only the best from you." And then he said, "It's okay. Just you can go. It's okay." Just like this. It's not easy for a human being. How many times in real life, if we are attacked on the street, verbally or even physically, we want to defend ourselves and it's a natural reaction. But to swallow and swallow and swallow just for the sake of the message, because he is the example of mankind. He cannot let go of his ego. We can't do that. I'm not this one example of Islam. I'm just an ordinary Muslim. But he is the representative and the messenger of this message. He has to think about each and every moment in life, and he could do that. He controlled his ego. Even when he fought a battle, it was not from his ego, was not because I want to retaliate or something, but it was for the sake of this message. This is what I admired about him, this his mercy.
And which day